Well, also, I suppose people might have trouble distinguishing sometimes between cold feet and, you know, if they're having reservations, if they're thinking this is not what they should be doing, people will say, oh, you have cold feet, and so they
talk them out of it. People talk them out of it. I've been on these online forums when people are talking about cold feet and jitters, and you would not believe the horrifying, I say it's like playing alone in a bad neighborhood, that someone will come in and say something that is clearly bad boyfriend behavior. And then all these other women, or whomever it is in cyberspace, will chime in and say, oh, you're being a prude, or, oh, all guys do that. And you can just see as the threads continue that the women talk themselves out, and they have reached out for help, but they've been talked out of what they know is right.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have one final clip to watch, and the question for our couples this time, what do you need to know about yourself before getting married?
I think what you need to know most about yourself is who you are and what it is that you desire the most out of life, out of a person, who you are. I think when we go into our marriage and we don't know who we are, what our needs and what our wants are, then we set ourselves up possibly for failure.
Well, you need to know the things that you value greatly. I think spirituality is very important. I think you need to have some idea about yourself before you give yourself to another person.
You need to understand yourself and your strengths and your weaknesses to be able to find the person that can help you through your tough spots.
I think you would need to know that you're not so selfish, that you, well, put it in the positive, that you're willing to share with another person and adjust as you need to. And can't be too selfish, and you got to be humble. You don't have all the answers. Together, you're better than apart.
Some very interesting comments. And Richard, let's start with you. When we say, what do you need to know about yourself, it applies not just to marriage, but to all kinds of aspects in life. And yet I think a lot of people don't really, they kind of skip that step. They're looking to somebody else to tell them who they are or what they think.
I think it's really important that you kind of come to understand what your needs are, what your own vulnerabilities might be, and get to a point where you feel that you can share that in a sense of safety with the person that you're going to share your life with. And I think that's kind of a difficult process for folks. I think it takes a lot of introspection. I also think that you have to be in a position to be open to accepting your partner kind of as a whole for who that person is, and coming to understand that better, and working with him or her in understanding, like this one fellow said, we're not perfect. We're really, and keeping that sense of humbleness about, I like that word, the humbleness about the relationship, and respect and regard.
And Jen, do you find when you deal with couples that maybe one person is just sort of going along and not really aware of what they want in the relationship, maybe letting the other person take more of the lead and not perhaps standing up for what they want?
Yeah, I find that to be very common in the couples that I work with. And oftentimes when I sense that in the other person, I might ask to meet with one of them individually and do some work. You know, the theme of self keeps getting thrown in the bucket here. And although it's really important to understand that core of who you are, I also think as couples, we need to understand the parts of us that get triggered in our relationship. So if my husband likes to play pool till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and doesn't understand how that affects me, I want to make sure that he understands I do appreciate his self, but I get hurt when he's abandoning me and not respecting the fact that I need him home sometimes.
So understanding yourself is not necessarily saying, well, this is what I want and this is what you want and I'm right, you're wrong. It's
very complicated. Very complicated. So although I like the idea that they all say know yourself, I don't think that's an easy answer to get to, and it does come from much introspection and understanding ourself, but then the self of our partner, of our husband or spouse.
And have you found at all in your research that perhaps people were so focused on the getting married or planning the wedding that these kind of things about who they are and who their spouse is just never really get addressed?
Well, we use these terms. A lot of times when the people I talked to, they said they felt like they were sleepwalking. It's like they were sleepwalking into marriage. And then the next thing they woke up, they used terms like surreal and dreaming. And it's just like they don't even really think about how I'm on the altar and I'm getting married, and they don't even realize how they got there. I just think it's easy to say you need to know yourself, but what does that really mean? There's a lot more work to that. But yes, I just think people get so confused and all the other surrounding issues that they really just don't think about, why am I devoting my life? Why am I dedicating my life to this other person? They have to just think more broadly. What does that mean?
And Richard, you were going to
Can I add something? Marriage is not about a 50-50 split. It's not about a quid pro quo. And it's not about getting all of my needs met. I think everybody has needs, and we accept that. But the idea that the marriage is going to fulfill all of that, it's much more about a give and take and an ebb and a flow. And there has to be a good foundation of communication and skills to be able to keep that going.
And then if you're constantly waiting for your needs to be met, you'll always be unhappy in your relationship.
Kind of come up short, yeah, exactly.
Anything like questions that you can think of that couples should be asking themselves about, how do you actually get to know who you are if you've never really stopped and thought about that? I mean, is there a good exercise, maybe something that you can do to really get in touch with what your needs are?
That's a great question. One of the things that I think is very helpful for couples, if they take the position of interviewing one another, tell me what you think about that. Say a little bit more about that. Where did that come from for you in your life? What's been your experience with whatever that issue might be, as opposed to getting into sort of a back and forth. So you sort of helping couples learn how to have a dialogue. So asking one another those questions really helps them understand, and the more that they understand about each other, the better they're going to be able to connect.
And if you're afraid to have that conversation, because a lot of women I talk to were afraid to have that conversation because they wouldn't, maybe their fiance would not even be willing to have that conversation
And
with
there's
them.
a red flag right
Yeah,
there.
there's your red flag.
Right.
All right, well, we are out of time. This has really been fascinating. I want to thank today's panelists for today's discussion, and to address more of your questions or to learn more about the programs and assistance available to help maintain your own healthy marriage, contact the St. Louis Healthy Marriage Coalition at 314-367-HOPE or on the web at www.stl-healthymarriage.org. On behalf of the St. Louis Healthy Marriage Coalition, I'm Debbie Monterey, and thank you so much for joining us.